Okay, it's going out. Let's see. Restream. Just gonna hide. Can I hide? Maybe I can't hide. Let's put that in front and then put that in front. Hello, anything working? Online. It's my first time in the new office trying to stream, so let's see if everything holds up. Twitch being a turd. Chris plays games. Oops, plays game. No, it says it's working.
You employ.
Sending data, but it's not getting a. All right, I don't know if the chat is working. So if you're out there watching somewhere, maybe post a message. Otherwise, I'm just going to edit the rest of this episode so that I'm not sitting here fiddling with streaming stuff all day. But it's been a while since I've tried this, and also been a while, or I've never tried it in this new office that I'm in. So audio-wise, it's really echoey. And also there might be noise from other offices around me. There's a cold air return right above my head where all the other offices' conversations kind of gather and dump onto me, which is fine normally. I'll usually have headphones on. But yeah, the podcast itself should drown out anything else that you might hear. So I'm about, 9 minutes in. This is an episode of CodePen Radio. If you're not familiar, CodePen.io is a place where you can do cool code pens. It's for doing like really neat and sharing your work of HTML, CSS, all sorts of web stuff. This is way more advanced than I know how to do anything with. But it's kind of like a playground for code nerds folks and sharing their work and collaborating on work, teaching about how to do code stuff. And they're a client of mine, and they have a blog.codepen. Is that where I think that's where the podcast is. Or I can just hit the link in the header, which they have one of the best designed, no offense to any of my other clients, but one of the nicest designed websites for their podcast. Love all the little icons and colors. They put a lot of work into it. And then, yeah, just nice big player right up on top. Time jump, show links for them, etc. Anyway, so that's what they're a client of mine. I do edit their podcasts, and they have lots of fun doing them, it sounds like. And I get to have lots of fun working with them. So anyways, this episode is about live streaming as it relates to coder nerd folks. I keep using nerds as it's like a term of endearment because they're way smarter than I am, all these folks. And yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I'll probably forget that I'm streaming and, pick my nose or something and leave halfway through or something and get interrupted. But let's go.
Optional almost in a way. And it can also help people sort of work out their anxieties about things.
And I'll try and watch the chat too. It's the restream thing. So it's going out to Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. And there's a fifth one. I can probably click this button and see. Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook. Oh yeah, and Mixer. Just cause I got the Restream thing on AppSumo was like a crazy good deal to buy it, a professional plan or whatever, and so I'm using that and having a little bit of fun trying that out. But yeah. Anyways, back to work. So feel free to post a question if you have anything in the chat wherever you happen to be watching. If you're on Periscope, this is not YouTube related. In the past, I've streamed YouTube podcasts there. If you're on Twitch, this is not a video game, obviously. If you're on Mixer, I don't know what people, I guess people watch video games mostly on Mixer. If you're on Facebook, hi, Mom. And otherwise, yeah. Hey, Cassidy. So Cassidy's the voice you're actually going to be hearing. She's over on Periscope. I don't know if that gets shared out to the other streams, how that works. But at any rate, yeah, Restream.io is kind of like where you can stream to that, and then it sends it out to all the places. So there's an insane amount of places it sends it to. Like streaming services I've never heard of and likely will never visit, but all over the world. And so their free plan is actually pretty good for just like messing around with streaming. And then up until a while ago, you couldn't stream to Facebook, I think it was, without a paid plan. And they opened something up there a little bit. But so they had a deal on AppSumo. You know how that works on AppSumo, where it's like if you get like a lifetime plan for like the equivalent of half of 1 year's plan or whatever normally. And so I jumped on that just to have a place to experiment with this kind of stuff. So anyways.
Things like that ahead of time because you see it and you can mimic it when you actually do it in your own real life.
Right. That's I am a big Vim fan, and I think I've talked about it on the show multiple times. But I actually learned I've actually learned how to use Vim from pair programming because in my first job outside of school, my like pairing.
I'll also say normally I add it at 50%. Or what would that be? Twice as fast.
Pairing buddy that they assigned me to
So it sounds like that.
When I first was in my first job, he only used Vim exclusively.
But just for the sake of the stream, because it can be a little jarring, and also it's not a great way to experience CodePen Radio if that's the only way you experience it. So I won't do it for this edit, but yeah.
And so every single time I put my hands on the keyboard, he's like, "Don't get near those arrow keys. You're going to be using HKJL," and like he really kind of like pushed that onto me, but at the same time it was amazing because I learned so much more just from having a senior developer teach me his kind of workflow and how he says certain things. Like normally when before when I would say, okay, we need to add a function here and then make sure that you add the parentheses at the end so it's called properly, he would just say, okay, make sure you call that and then keep going. And that's a really simple, small, kind of dumb example, but by just kind of picking up that kind of little lingo, you can kind of learn how people think about something differently and how someone who might have more experience than you thinks about things and calls things and describes things. And yeah, I think there's so much advantage to watching people coding with a person and just being around people, which I think is kind of contrary to what stereotypes of coders have been in the past.
Oh, cool. I could have the chat read out loud on... That could be really bad. I don't know if I want to give people that kind of power. Check this out. Yeah, I can throw in... I could connect to Discord. I need to figure out which Discord I use. Let's keep it big for now. Ooh, opacity. Okay. Anyways, that's not the point of this. Hearing myself is hard. I know, Cassidy. I hate hearing myself. I hate even just like, this much hearing myself is weird.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely
been in the past.
The funny part is, and I'll try not... this is going to take twice as long to edit, but that's fine. I'll get it to Marie as soon as possible. The funny part is, because I normally edit at 50% speed, like the twice as fast.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely...
Now,
I'd say we're in a...
At normal speed, it sounds like y'all are kind of drunk and not like taking...
Renaissance.
Just a little slow.
Of social coding. And I think that's incredibly exciting because it breaks down the barriers, which a lot of those barriers shouldn't have been there in the first place, Right. And it's really good to see things because you can kind of learn about the flow.
I am a big fan of pair programming. Just here's that thing.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting to watch the two of them work together in collab mode on code. Like, you know, being able to learn by example from someone who you can relate to, you know, someone whose vibe matches yours, you know, it's a very exciting time for that. And we're seeing, you know, things like the keyframers and also people doing like time lapses of coding something on YouTube, for example. And I think those are very smart because you can cut it down to a brief period of time. People can just get a feel for how you built something as you were coding it, but you don't have to fill a lot of the time. Right. You know, you don't have to be talking the whole time. So, and those to me sound very smart. And if I was doing something like this, I would feel like that's what I would do because I would want that editing layer.
Right.
You know? But the big difference with the streaming broadcasts is that there's no editing layer. You're just doing it live. Yep. And so that includes all of it. And I understand like what's exciting about that for the viewer because you see it all. It kind of takes away some of the mystery and some of the mystique of coding because you realize like
that's Keyframers folks are great. Yeah, definitely check out the Keyframers at twitch.tv/keyframers. I think is your channel URL, I'm assuming, for how using actually coding, using live streaming to show coding and pair programming, what they're talking about right here. I was just thinking, I hope there's nothing in here. I mean, this episode is going out publicly, obviously, but sometimes clients put little like, oh, shoot, Chris, we shouldn't have said that part in the podcast. So maybe Cassidy, if you're still out there, just tell me if, I don't imagine there's anything on this topic that's like sensitive CodePen information that you guys accidentally released or said and then want me to edit out, but I digress.
Like these two people or these, you know, four people or this one person that I really respect in the coding world is beating their head against the wall because they can't figure out this thing. Right. And you're kind of like along for the ride with them. And it makes it almost like you're experiencing the struggle and the triumph of it. So it's really fun and cool.
Right. I have this one friend named Tyler, and he works on PowerShell. Like he works at Microsoft on PowerShell, but he works on the open source section. And every single week and
every so often Logic barfs.
He just live streams himself working on open source issues for PowerShell.
Hey, Cassie,
and what's been cool about that is even though I'm not as much of a PowerShell user, I've learned so much about just how it works from watching him. And then also like as he's coding, the community chimes in and he'll always get a core amount of users watching just because there's PowerShell community so active, and they'll be able to say, hey, will you take on this issue next? Or hey, as you're typing that, don't forget about this thing that we ran into in the past. And he's able to like kind of, it's not even pair programming, it's like programming with a group as he puts stuff together. And I think that's all just so valuable, not only for the betterment of the open source software, but for everyone's understanding, both the coder and the audience.
Yeah, and the audience participation aspect of it is also fascinating to me because I've always...
for everyone's understanding, both the coder and the audience.
Yeah, and the audience participation aspect of it is also fascinating to me because I've always... That's something I've kind of shied away from. I like to, like I said before, like have the editing layer of things. Like just performing live where the audience can shout things out to you is, to me, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Right.
So thinking about, you know, seeing people put themselves out there with something like coding and actually participate with an audience and interact with an audience while that's coding and
where possible, I like to cut out some brain farts too.
Something like coding and participate with an audience and interact with an audience while that's happening. It's cool to see how often that goes well. Yeah, how often that's a positive experience for the developer and also for the community.
Yeah, and I've had such a good experience streaming and I've had such a good experience streaming just little things here and
community.
And I've had such a good experience streaming just little things here and there. My sister and I, we also stream building Legos sometimes. And I like just, you know, turning on some like quiet jazz music and putting Legos together. And it's fun to kind of, you kind of build relationships with these people who subscribe to you and who talk all the time. And sometimes they're just saying like, hey, I just had dinner. And I like just, turning on some like quiet jazz music and putting Legos together. And it's fun to kind of, you kind of build relationships with these people who subscribe to you and who talk all the time. And sometimes they're just saying like, hey, I just had dinner, and you can just say, oh, what'd you have for dinner while you're coding or putting together a Lego set or something. And it's like having a conversation. Honestly, sometimes it's kind of like you're just talking to yourself and hoping someone's talking back. But honestly, sometimes it's kind of like you're just talking to yourself and hoping someone's talking back. But it's a really great way to foster a community.
This is the Logic Pro edition of keyframing.
And it's definitely an unusual community, and there can be pros and cons, kind of like what you said. When you don't have that editing layer, stuff can be very unfiltered.
Yeah.
But hey, if you have the right moderation tools and you're kind of just open to talking with people of all shapes and sizes, I think it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the
experience.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show to talk about this is because we here at CodePen have. Yeah. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you. So one of the reasons
Marie gets cut off there is because there is a sponsor break in this episode that we need to throw in. And often I'll just monologue my thoughts as I try to do this. Often when it's two people, actually, and CodePen in particular, the CodePen Radio folks are often having such a great conversation that it's actually kind of hard to find a break. There isn't a natural break because they're just kind of like, it's like a meeting where, like, obviously when you're having a meeting with your team, you don't have like little stops necessarily for a break. People kind of just keep going. And so and because I think they're all, this is me like projecting on them because I only know them through Slack really and listening to the podcast, but because they get along so well, they work so well together, which is testament to the team that's been built there. I'm just gushing because they're watching potentially, and so they're my client, and so I need to make sure that I pump them up. No, but they have such a good time talking with each other. There isn't any natural breaks, which is a good problem to have, I think. And so, yeah, often it's kind of like insert on the podcast editing side. If any podcast editors are watching, it's sometimes fun and interesting challenge to try and get a space for a sponsor spot in the midst of their conversation, is all I'm trying to say. What am I doing now? Add music. This part doesn't, the naming of like it says Rachel here, but obviously Cassie, it's just because it's a template. That part doesn't really matter for this kind of, if it was a more complex project, then I would be naming things more diligently. So I just grabbed music from a previous episode because it's already got the keyframes, keyframes? Why does that sound right? Wrong. Anyways, for the sponsor music that we use. Shuffle this over a bit. And let's see how.
I think it's a really cool experience.
Shuffle it over a little bit.
Shapes and sizes. I think it's a really cool experience.
This episode of CodePen Radio is sponsored by Discover.bot. Discover.bot is a digital space for bot developers and enthusiasts.
Having done a sponsor read for Shop Talk show for Discover.bot, it's one of those ones where it's a URL that works really well in like on the web, but saying it out loud is kind of a mouthful sometimes. It always feels like you're gonna, at least when I had to do multiple takes on the read.
This episode of CodePen Radio is sponsored by Discover.bot.
Always felt like I was gonna mess up the Discover.bot.
Discover.bot is a digital space for bot developers and enthusiasts of all skill levels, built by Amazon.
I think it's a really cool experience.
This episode of CodePen Radio is sponsored by Discover.bot. Discover.bot is a digital space for bot developers and enthusiasts of all skill levels, built by Amazon Registry Services.
There we go.
It's a place to learn from one another, share stories, and move the bot conversation forward. You can join in at discover.bot/CodePen. Discover.bot publishes how-to guides and the latest bot building resources. For example, you can learn how to design a bot personality, how to set up payments through resources. For example, you can learn how to design a bot personality, how to set up payments through a bot, and how to use a bot to help stop shopping cart abandonment. For newcomers to the bot world, Discover.bot will teach you everything there is to know about bots. If you're just getting started, check out their Beginner's Guide to Bots. It'll teach you how bots were invented, the basics of how they work, what bots can do, and where they're developed and published. And when you're ready to build your own, check out their guide to bot building frameworks. You can use that guide to find out what all the major frameworks have to offer, so you can choose a chatbot framework that fits your objectives.
Thanks, Cassidy, for the update. Is there anything I can do to improve my recording setup? Let me just...
We'll have a link to that one in our show notes.
Well, actually, I'll just stop now. I think you're often a little quieter. You can, well, I mean, you can see. I don't have, yeah, like I could enhance the size, but so Marie's up there. You're right here.
Called OBS, Open Broadcasting.
Oh, sweet OBS. So Marie's often just about too loud, like she's borderline, and then you're often, and a lot of the other CodePen folks, I think, maybe Chris and Marie are often just under the, like, right around the perfect kind of loudness level, I guess, of their recordings. And Marie and I know Steven too, I think, often it's a little bit on the almost too quiet level. So then, like, what happened back here, it's nothing like terrible. If it's ever really bad, I'll tell you, like, hey, your cat is in the background and it's totally being picked up. But here, where I'm like doing some keyframes to just adjust the levels, obviously, and it's things like, there's things like mic technique that take time learning, obviously, as I'm sure you're aware too, of like talking away from the mic and then getting closer, and then you're over here, and that kind of stuff happens, I think. And because we're none of us are professional radio folks doing this full time for a living, I don't expect everybody to have that kind of thing. But just to be aware of it, I guess, when you're doing that, like all of a sudden, if you find yourself drifting back, that's why I think like a good pop filter is as important as it is for like the what it's supposed to do, pop filter. It kind of always, I feel it like on the bottom of my chin. I know I'm close to my mic where I kind of want to be at my settings or whatever. But I screwed up myself lots that way too. So, but yeah, I think the main thing is like, because I think you're doing it over Zoom, and so you'd have a Zoom input level, but then you're recording on your end, whether you're using QuickTime maybe to record, or if you're using another app to record your audio, that part could be a little louder. So if you turned up your input levels on the, if it's depending, again, varying mics and devices and things like that. This device doesn't have any input controls, but if I was using like my default input, because my mic is going in through a mixer, which the mixer itself has the controls. But like if it's a USB mic going straight in, then you could adjust the input on there, or possibly on the mic itself would have a gain adjustment or an input level. But the danger is you definitely don't want to be too loud, because too loud is when it peaks and like gets all crunchy, and then it's really hard to undo that. I can boost the levels unless it's like super quiet and nothing's recorded. But if it's too loud, then it just gets all that like distorted, right? And like a guitar, electric guitar. And so then as cool as an electric guitar sounds, you don't want that for your podcast. So I would err on the side of being too quiet than too loud. But if you adjust your volume input on your mic, let's say, or in QuickTime recording, and then the people you're talking with on Zoom say, hey, you're really loud, can you turn it down? That's where you can go. I think in Zoom, there's a setting in there for like how loud Zoom is taking your audio out to the conference call or whatever. And that's where you'd then dial it down maybe there a bit, if that makes sense. But you can ping me in Slack sometime if you have questions, and maybe sending screenshots or whatever, or do a Zoom call sometime and try it out.
It's a really great way to foster a community, and it's definitely an unusual community, and there can be pros and cons, kind of like what you said, when you don't have that editing layer.
Oh, wait. Oh yeah, I'm back here.
We'll have a link to that one in our show notes. And when you're ready to join in, check out discover.bot/CodePen.
Little secret there that I'm looping the music, and I can probably actually get rid of it and just use the default ending. Have a nice fade.
CodePen.
Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect read, Marie. Perfectly timed.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show to talk about this is because we here at CodePen have actually... And when you're ready to join in, check out discover.bot/CodePen. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show to talk about this is because we here at CodePen have actually been given a little bit of thought to dusting off our Twitch channel and actually starting to use it and starting to do things with the CodePen community, or just as our team ourselves on our Twitch channel. And last week you showed me how to get set up with what's the name of the software? I completely forgot already.
It is called OBS, Open Broadcasting Software.
OBS. How could I forget that?
Yeah, that's okay. It's a great software, and if anybody is looking into streaming, I highly recommend checking it out because it's...
I'm sure Cassie will cover. It's great, but it's also painful. It's gotten way better than it used to be, that's for sure.
Open source, which, you know, gotta love that. But what's great is you can set up all kinds of different scenes, for lack of a better word, and it has a lot of tools that are almost like, they're kind of like, it feels like you're doing some kind of old school news broadcast, because you can add in like a title ticker, or you can add in picture in picture and have like your screen as
Nice.
the big screen and your camera in the corner and stuff.
Steve, the AC or the cat. I try to balance the gain on the lower side and level on the higher side to help minimize background noise like the AC or cats. Should I up the gain more? I think actually I'm trying to remember, it's been a few episodes since you've been on, so don't quote me on this, but I think I think yours is okay because you either I think it is quieter, but you would never drop below, like Cassie kind of almost faded, like it was completely gone for a moment. And I don't think yours has ever dropped like that. So if I think of it on the next one, or if I notice anything, for sure I'll say something. I think you wouldn't need to do too much adjustment on yours, and yeah, definitely like AC or cats or whatever can obviously be picked up. If you up the gain too much. Yeah. But also know that, like, just like what I'm doing here with, like, say, when Marie's talking, or when Cassie's, come on, computer. Logic has just, like, randomly crashed on me, randomly, a few times lately, and so I always get nervous when I get the spinning wheel. Just like what I'm doing with Marie's not talking and Cassie is talking, I'm just going to completely, like, I have a noise gate, so it should cut it out anyways when you're not talking, but I just basically kill any audio that's, so like whatever those little bumps are, hopefully it's not Marie laughing at a funny joke or something that I'm cutting out, but no, generally I leave that stuff in, but like, yeah, any little like noises on the desk or cars driving by or whatever, as long as you're not talking, then it should be fine.
But it's a really great software, and there's some other softwares that pair up with it really well, and you can hook up APIs to it, and so a lot of times people will add a section of OBS to just stream the Twitch comments. That way people later, when they're watching, they can see the comments on the side as well, and not just the video, and have that be a part of the video, and it can add little graphics, and you can make it where it listens for if someone has donated to your channel. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with it, and there's an interesting API for it too, where you could set up, there's things like Stream Deck, or if you had your own keyboard on the side that you wanted to program, where you could say, okay, if I hit this key, that'll put up this screen. If I hit this key, that'll pull up my code, or things like that. And it's a really great software for streaming. And we're kind of slowly getting the team set up on that, and seeing how people like it, and if we could do something interesting on the channel with that.
Yeah, it's been interesting talking about it, because I think part of the team has experience with it. Part of the team, you and Stephen both have done live streams, and the whole rest of us are like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. It should be interesting, and I think that what would be great just for the, yeah. It should be interesting, and I think that what would be great just for community and for just CodePen in general is it gives more insight into what's happening on our end, whether we talk about like pens that are popular right now or new features that we might be building or anything, even if we're just doing some kind of thing where we help people with their existing problems with code, not with life, of course.
So you can hear actually in the back, I don't know if it's picking up on the stream necessarily, but in my headphones I can hear
anything.
Like, there's a truck or something in the background.
Even if we're just doing some kind of thing where we help people with.
So I can do a little bit of like, it's not so loud that it's worth obsessing over, but I could probably.
Now, or new features that we might be building or anything, even if we're just doing some kind of thing where we help people with their existing problems with code, might be building or anything, even if we're just doing some kind of thing where we help people with their existing problems or new features that we might be building or anything, whether we talk about like pens that are popular right now or new features that we might be building or anything, even if we're just doing some kind of thing where we help people with their existing problems. For just CodePen in general is it gives more insight into what's happening on our end, whether we talk about like pens that are popular right now or new features that we might be building or with code, not with life, of course. But
well, depends.
Yeah.
Catch us on the right day, right?
That's true. It's live, so you never know. But
yeah. Cassie, you should definitely apologize for the traffic outside of your office. No, it's there's like, I can cut lower frequencies out, which usually gets rid of a lot of that stuff, but like, yeah, drive like your kids are recording a podcast sign. Yeah, if you just put like although you kind of want them to go by fast, you want them to get it out of your area, you don't want them to slow down, but so maybe like a speed up, there's a podcast happening here sign or something.
I think there's so many ways to help the community and also never know. But I think there's so many ways to help the community, and also just from a business perspective, it's a really good way of kind of talking to your core audience and talking to people who care about your company enough that they want to watch you do stuff. And I think it's great for any company to build loyalty and to build again that community aspect. And so I'm really excited about the concept, and we officially have the twitch.tv/CodePen, and so we have a channel going, and now it's just kind of.
I'm curious if what was I going to say? I should finish this thought before CodePen. Sweet. Follower number 4. Notifications are on by default. I'm curious I don't know if you guys are more connected on the developer side, but so Amazon owns Twitch, obviously. So there's, some connection there, synergies happening probably, but Microsoft owns Mixer, which is sort of a competitor to Twitch. And it seems weird to me that there's all these Microsoft developers live streaming on Twitch the new Microsoft doesn't seem like the kind of company that would be like mandate, if you're going to live stream, you have to do it on Mixer. But if you're trying to grow Mixer, which Microsoft is making big push in, huge like money and affiliate coding or affiliate money and all that kind of stuff that they're pumping into Mixer and developing the platform to be competitive and on par with Twitch and try to surpass it, obviously, in some ways. It seems weird that like wouldn't put all your push, at least like a subtle push, and maybe there is behind the scenes, I have no idea how this all works, but that all those developers wouldn't be encouraged heavily to go on a Mixer and have like a developer channel on Mixer. And I see it now with like Xbox Live folks doing I think they probably dual stream it, but like they do like their live whatever game announcement stuff happens on Mixer as the primary platform they point them to. And so maybe they're just sort of gearing it up, and the developer end of things happens later. But there is like this groundswell, like Cassidy alluded to at the beginning, and Marie, of like developers and coders discovering and sort of falling in love with live streaming, but they're doing it on Twitch. And ironically, Mixer feels like a much more interesting platform for it, because they have it's called FTL, faster than light streaming, which Twitch is trying to add now, but it's almost near instantaneous streaming. So that like if you're typing out code on your thing and someone's like, hey, you forgot semicolon or whatever, you'd see that chat like almost instantly, rather than like the 5 to 10 second delay that happens often on Twitch or YouTube for that matter. And maybe it's just a matter of time. But anyways, the main point being two big questions I have for anybody out there about streaming. Why doesn't Amazon hook up S3 storage to Twitch so that when you live stream on Twitch, all your videos stay on Twitch rather than them allowing you to, or forcing you basically to dump it to YouTube eventually? And two, why doesn't the Microsoft developer team sort of push or promote Mixer as the platform that their coding streamers should be on? There, that's my rant. Back to work.
Setting up how we want to do it, what we want to do it with it. And so if any of you out...
Yeah, I think on the dev side, they're going just where the devs are, which is Twitch. Yeah, I agree. And it makes sense that way. But it's maybe just coming from whatever that would have been, the 90s, like Microsoft style. It feels weird that they're not like, you have to use our platform or whatever. But maybe they're just all going to push them onto LinkedIn streaming or whatever.
If you out there have any ideas, we've got a few out there. One of them, we were thinking just straight live coding. It could be some kind of regular show or something where we could live code something neat with the pen editor or with projects or something. We could do something where we're reviewing the week's challenge pens and the ones that we like and don't like, because those are fun to see visually rather than on the podcast or something.
I will never reveal which ones I don't like.
Oh, sure. Good point.
I will never say that.
So, unless it's just like, Marie sucks. Never mind.
Even then, I would be very reserved. You know me.
Just like, that's an interesting perspective. But anyway, I think it'd be fun to have those kinds of things. And also...
Marie's an honorary Canadian with how polite she is.
Just having some kind of like talking section where people can just gab with the team and see what we're working on and maybe have little contests here and there. I've always thought it would be really fun to do Code in the Dark while streaming. And
oh yeah,
that
was a great idea.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what Code in the Dark is, basically you are given some kind of screenshot or image or whatever, and you have to try to code that with straight HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and you can't preview what you've made. And so if we were using CodePen, for example, we would just completely minimize the result panel and just write in the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I would love to just go head to head with Chris. And I bet he would probably kick my butt for a while, but I really want to see if I could. I bet he would probably kick my butt for a while, but I really want to see if I bet he would probably kick my butt for a while, but I really want to see if I could do well against him. Just trying to code up something and making it kind of a fun contest to see how well our raw coding chops are when we can't look anything up or anything. And you only have like 15 minutes to do it. And then you just have to press live and see what happens. But
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's really just a frenzy of let's see how fast we can try to make something.
Minutes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's really just a frenzy of let's see how fast we can try to make something out of nothing that might go terribly wrong. One time I did that with just a group of coworkers, and it was really funny because there was this one senior engineer who was very cocky about it. He was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna crush all of you," but then. Unfortunately for him, he was so used to using React that he kept writing class name instead of class on all of his HTML tags. And so none of his CSS worked. Oh, the sweet none of his CSS worked. Oh, the sweet victory over him. We were all just, we were gloating. Oh, the sweet victory over him. We were all just, we were gloating about that for ages. And
that's hilarious.
Granted, that wasn't his fault, but still, it was great. And so it's a fun time. And so I would love to do things like that on the show. And if anyone listening has ideas that they want to do or things that they would really like to see, we're all ears. We would love to hear what people would like to see on a streaming channel from us.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to know.
There you go, Chris Coyer. You've been called out. Any tips for better audio on live stream? All the same, maybe? I don't know. A lot of the same rules apply. Because you're just like the tough part, I think, in OBS, and they just added a bit of metering, audio metering. They've added some better audio metering tools. If that's what you're using for your live stream, Stephen. is it's hard to gauge what you're hearing here as to what's going out to the stream, and even levels. I find it's a bit of a struggle trying to make sure everything sounds right. If you've got some music in the background, sometimes it's too low or it's too high, and so yeah, there's I forget in the OBS. I can fire it up maybe afterwards even here, but there is a way to like make sure you're listening to the, what's it called, the post effect stream or whatever, like what's going out after OBS, and it may even be the default. I mess with so much stuff on my system. I use loopback to like set up audio devices, and have like this thing running, and then I have sound source from Rogue Amoeba. I basically have a Rogue Amoeba computer here on the Mac, and so there's I'm using an external mixer with my mic and my co-host audio coming in, and that goes into OBS as the main input. Yeah, and your co-host is coming in off of Skype or Zoom or something, or are you in the same room together? Okay, yeah, over Zoom. Use an external mixer with my mic and my co-host audio coming in, and that goes into OBS as the main. Yeah, so if you can, even there with OBS in the latest version, adds better support for multiple audio devices. So, and again, this is where this $100 piece of software that feels like it's like tremendously powerful, but then it feels like, why am I spending $100 on this software? Hopefully nobody from Rogue Amoeba is listening, but it's really good, powerful software, but it took a long time to convince myself to buy it. But anyways, you can set up in audio devices, and you can do a bit of this with audio MIDI controls on the Mac. I'm assuming you're a Mac person, Stephen, as well. But basically you could set up your audio device from your Zoom output, let's say, to OBS so that they're on their own track effectively in OBS. So then you can, right in OBS, you can adjust their levels as well, instead of relying on your setting the levels in Zoom, let's say, or what you're hearing, and just, I can adjust my headphone, obviously, volume on my mixer. Like I have a Scarlett 18.8 mixer, USB mixer, and just like something similar to what you're using. But obviously that's not going to affect anything that anybody else is hearing. So yeah, in OBS, having that, your co-host or whatever stream or audio levels coming in and able to set that independently of what you're hearing necessarily. Because maybe you want them a little lower because whatever, they're really annoying, but you have to include them in the stream because they're your partner. And so, but you want them to be able to be heard on the live stream, let's say, or whatever. And so in OBS, having them on their own track rather than both of you on the same like input track. And then having, this is something, a lot of this I learned reading, what's her name? Noopcat, is that the one? She did she does a lot of streaming, and then she had a Medium article. Oh yeah, I can't search because I don't pay. I should pay. Nope. Probably easier to Google it. Nope. Cat. Live stream. Medium. Suze Hinton. Yeah. Yeah, she's got like a bunch of, because she's like a smart developer person, right? And so she knows what she's doing on every level. Yeah, her, I'll post in the chat here. If that comes through. Where'd it go? Oh, maybe I'm not allowed to post. I'll post it in Slack for those folks. Anyway, I don't know if that's Nope Cats. OBS setup. Yeah, it might be getting blocked by my own bot. At any rate, obviously you can Google it the same way I did. But she has, she hit on this idea of, where is it? Somewhere in here anyways, about like the audio channels, and OBS happened to just update after she'd published this, I think, to have better support for audio channels, where like this idea of like your desktop audio is coming in, your music is in one channel, your sound effects maybe, and then her mic. And so your co-host, let's say, would be a fourth or fifth one. And so that way right here, what you're sending out is, or what your viewers are hearing is this. So even if you have it really loud or the music is completely off on your end, you're doing this. So she does, I think, she has a weird setup where she's got audio MIDI setup stuff in here somewhere, and then also loopback. But I know you could do what she's doing just in loopback. You don't need to have both going. Oh yeah, or Soundflower. Yeah, like don't mess with Soundflower and loopback. You don't, as far as I'm reading it, you don't need to mess around with Soundflower, which is an older piece of software that kind of loopback grew out of. Yeah, you can just do it inside of loopback. So, and then OBS. But that idea, anyways, is what kind of changed it for me in terms of being able to. It does complicate things a lot, obviously, especially for a novice streamer or new to that, where it's like there's so much going on. There's chat, there's what you're doing, there's remembering not to pick your nose, making sure audio is actually going out. I'm using for this on the Mac side, it works great, other than it doesn't have, I don't know if you can see I don't think it doesn't actually show you guys the stream, but anyways, Ecamm Live on the Mac is what I use right now for like just when I want to quickly stream something and don't want to fuss with a lot of stuff. It doesn't have a great support, like the API support isn't there for all the, say, Twitch or Mixer or whatever integrations, or even having like one single simplified chat. But like you're seeing this Restream chat, they have a Electron app that works okay, and hopefully is being improved. But I could be, have this as part of the stream as well, up in the corner or whatever, constantly. But yeah. Anyways, I should probably finish this.
Know what people would like to see from CodePen, but also I'd like to hear about like what are your favorite Twitch channels that are in the code world, or like close enough, like game development, or even things like Cassidy's Dremel channel. I mean, Cassidy, I had no idea you were doing a Dremel channel. That's amazing. We'll have to talk about that more later.
Yeah, some other time.
But just, I'm very curious to know what people enjoy about live streaming with code. I'm very curious to know what people enjoy about live streaming with code. I'm partial to things like collab modes and seeing people make presentations, but I am also very open-minded to other ideas, because this is all just brand new territory for us. So.
One thing that actually, is it Mixer co-stream? Maybe it's just on Xbox. That's from 2017. They have a way that you can like invite other people onto your stream, so then it takes care of like handling. Like I was just wondering, like obviously you have CodePen collab mode where you can stream, one person can stream that, but like if you wanted to better incorporate maybe a higher quality video from them, from one person. Anyway, it sets it like automatically like that, so you can have like two desktops going. I don't know if it's limited to Xbox console. Anyway, something to look into with the if you're looking into it for CodePen, just as a.
So it's an exciting time. We're just like still picking out our channel art and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very, very early. I think we.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very, very early. I think we actually might still have a test stream that I should probably delete as soon as we're done recording this, where it's just Marie and I saying, "Oh, that worked! Look at that, we did it!" So
and you can't hear me at all.
Yeah,
right?
no, it's me talking to nobody while I click buttons all over the place, and so. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, if you happen to catch it before we delete it, that she really was talking to me. It was not Cassidy talking to herself.
Yeah, it's not just me murmuring to myself like I usually do.
But it won't be long before we have some new things on there. We're going to be trying it out. And of course, we're super interested in hearing what people think and what people would like to see.
Yeah.
And so that is our podcast for today. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
And get the music. I think I've been meaning to pitch this in some form. I feel like there's enough creative folks inside CodePen.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
I think it's time for like maybe an episode, what are we at, 223, 250 or something or whatever. We introduce some new CodePen Radio music. I don't know if any of the CodePen folks are still watching, but I'm not necessarily tired. It's nice like to have a consistent branding, musical or audio brand, so you don't want to mess with it too much. Oh shoot, of course. See? Logic part. Thanks a lot, Logic. Not so logical, are you? I don't know what happened. Something maybe OS 10 related. It was like Logic Pro has been rock solid for ever. And then, did I save or did I should go back and watch the live stream if I hit save or if the autosave version from 11:24 a.m. That's probably more recent. Let's see what I missed. Oh, yeah, not much.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
For some reason, I have Shakira in my head. Oh, I should put that. I'll just do that another time. I've already wasted enough time on it. I was going to put Cassidy's. What song is that? On at the end as a little Easter egg. CodePen Radio 223. Cassidy to be down for new music. Yeah. I don't think anybody's really hard tied to it. It's oh shoot, I forgot to grab the code or the. How should we describe this one? Cassidy and Marie talk about CodePen's plans to. I don't know how much Marie edits this song to get into live streaming. Writing the show description is like for some reason, feels like the most painful part of podcast editing for me, especially when it's my own stuff, because I hate that even more. It's like you're talking about yourself and how great you are. Just put that. Make sure that works. Beautiful. We're talking about live streaming on this episode, and she and Marie gotta stuff those keywords in the past and how CodePen is playing. All right, so Cassidy, Marie, Twitch.tv, Cassidy Show, GitHub sponsors. I think that's all the links. So according to this, there's 2 people watching on Twitch. I don't know if Periscope ever actually, I forgot to log in and look at it. Periscope. Yeah, says it's going. Says there's 2 people on there watching. Yeah, I don't know how much. I was on Periscope at first, and there were like 13 people there. I don't know how. I think like there was a there's a lot of folks who follow me on there, I think, because we streamed a YouTube podcast, and I think they assume anytime that that's all I use Periscope for. So it's a bit of a mixed branding. I'm sure they turned it on and were like, what the heck am I looking at? That's not Bono. Yeah, I didn't really do any preemptive, hey, this is what's happening. Open marker list. So I use CodePen. Normally I have my favorites bar there. I just get rid of it for the live stream. I don't know why. I used to have a lot more company client stuff in the bookmarks, and so it felt weird to have that on the live stream going out into the world. 1507. Yeah, so nice enough little CodePen plug here too. Change view, details view. This pen is a fork of, yeah, Michael Van Elgigens. That's how you say it. I put out a question, I think Chris Coyer retweeted it, of how to turn Logic Pro marker list, time codes, bookmarks, whatever, markers, into Markdown and eventually HTML. And so he made me this little thing that I think I must have fiddled with, because that's not exactly what it's supposed to do. So I use that every time. Yeah, something's goofy. Oh, I'm pasting the Markdown one already. Anyways, you saw what I did. So thanks to him, that makes my life so much easier. I think I'm done with that. Then we'll take the forecast, grab the audio, CodePen 223, bounce. There's your chapters, and should call it live streaming. Sure. Marie can do with that what she will. And just for fun, we'll throw in the URL. And since people are watching, let's get a screenshot. Oops. What? I guess I can't preview it. We'll just trust that it's right. Save as. Send this to the Dropbox. Finish show files. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I think that's because I'm live streaming and there's people watching potentially. GK, what is this about? That's not my live stream setup. That's Suzanne's. I don't normally live stream Slack conversations. Where am I? Make sure this sounds okay. I don't think you guys will hear it. Actually, I'm not hearing it. Just gonna switch here. Hello. Okay. Yeah, it's coming, but you guys aren't hearing it. There. Copy Dropbox link, 223 MP3. All right. So that's live streaming of a live streaming episode of CodePen Radio. So go check it out, codepen.io/radio. No. I don't think that works. CodePen.io, and then look for the podcast link, or CodePen Radio. Search for that everywhere you get podcasts. And you can hire me if you happen to be out there in the internet land watching this some random time later. lemonproduction.ca. Hit the little contact thing. Send me a thingy. Or you can cheat and just use the email address in the footer. Or send me a mail if you want to send me some mail. And find out if my new office actually delivers mail to me. That'd be great. And let's talk about podcasting. Thanks, Cassidy and Steven, if you're out there, and whoever else happened to pop on to the chat. Make me not feel like I was talking to myself. It's always appreciated. And good luck, CodePen, with the live streaming. I'm sure we'll chat a little more about that. Now, remembering where to shut this off. Let's see if my loop thing still works. Oh, that's not right. It's not starting soon.